Hey guys, Toxic Tank here, and welcome to another episode of the World War II rant. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the German tank numbering system. Now, I have to ask you, have you ever wondered what those numbers mean on the side of a German tank? Like the ones you see in old war pictures, or the ones you see in museums, or even the ones in games like in War Thunder and many others. Well, today's going to be your lucky day, because I'm going to tell you what they mean and give you some examples. But first, I'll be discussing the different variations of numbers, letters, and symbols of each German tank we come across. For this, I'll be using different vehicles with different numbers and symbols throughout this episode. For my first example is this Tiger tank right next to me.
Just to be clear, I did not steal this tank from the Barberton Tank Museum.
Okay, maybe I did, but I'm just borrowing it, and when I'm done, I'll put it back. Although, it may take some explaining to do on how I managed to steal it in the first place.
God save our gracious King, long live our noble King, God save the King, send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King. God save our gracious King. Long live our noble King. God save the King. Do I say, chaps? I'm enjoying myself right now. The basking heat in Africa is quite superb. I'll tell you what, chaps. How about a cup of tea on me tonight?
Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, the reason why the Germans use numbers and symbols on the side of their tanks is to create better organization within their tank divisions. Since the Germans installed better radios within their tanks, unlike the Soviet and French vehicles, who used flags and hand signals to communicate with their fellow tankers, it became easy and straightforward for the Germans to attack the tanks during the invasion of Poland and many other countries all across Europe. So let's take a closer look at this Tiger tank's number. As you can see, there are 3 numbers on the side of the Tiger tank's turret, which are 131. The first number is the company number, which is a 1, meaning this tank was in the first company. The second number is the platoon number, which is a 3, meaning that this tank was in the 3rd platoon of its company. And the last number is the tank number, which is a 1. We also know that this Tiger was part of the 504th Heavy Panzer Battalion, with the insignia shown on the hull side of the tank. With all this information explained, we now know that this Tiger was part of the 504th Heavy Panzer Battalion, and was part of the 1st Company in the 3rd Platoon and was the number 1 tank of that platoon. Sounds simple, right? But let's try something a bit more difficult. What I have here are multiple symbols and numbers of the German numbering system. Let's start with the first one on top. The first thing you've noticed is the letter R at the beginning, which means that this tank or armored vehicle is a regiment command vehicle or a staff vehicle. The next one has got a Roman numeral, which means that the tank is a battalion command vehicle. The reason why the Germans use Roman numerals is because it makes them look special and adds confusion against their enemies. Other battalions use letters like A and B battalions to create more confusion against their enemies across the battlefields. Some German tanks also have the letter S on the side of their turrets, which means Schwer or heavy tank. For an example, a Tiger tank. The next one has got the letter N, which means the tank or armored vehicle is a signal or communications vehicle. Some will have the letter R for regiment, and for battalions it will either have Roman numerals or letters for which battalion it's associated with. For medical vehicles, they would have the letters R and A, which means Regiment Arzt or Doctor. But most German medical vehicles will just have the red cross on the side of them, just to make them simple. Now that we've gone through most of the important bits of the symbols, let's take a look at the tank numbers, shall we? As you can see, this tank number has got a 0 in the middle of it. This means that this tank is an HQ vehicle for a company that gives out orders to the platoon tanks from the battalion command. Now this next tank number looks a bit strange because it looks like it has 4 numbers instead of 3. But actually there are still only 3 numbers. The reason why it has 4 is because the tank is in a division that has more companies than other divisions usually have. Like this Panzer III for an example. It has got the number 12 on it, which means that this tank was in a division that had 12 companies. Another example of this is the Waffen SS tank divisions. They've used up to 13 tank companies during the Battle of Kursk, since there were so many tanks being used throughout the course of the battle. The Germans also used single and double digit numbers and also non-existent numbers on their tanks, since they didn't want the enemy tanks to figure out which tank was the HQ vehicle. Some tank commanders took into account by putting single digit numbers on their given tanks. A perfectly good example of this is Erwin Rommel, since he didn't want any of his command tanks getting destroyed during the North African campaign. He used the single-digit method to confuse the enemy tanks into thinking they were just a normal enemy tank. Some other tank division commanders used the double-digit and non-existent method in the early and late stages of the Second World War. So that about wraps up the German tank numbering system. I hope you all enjoyed this World War II rant episode. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share for more content. Now if you excuse me, I've got a Tiger tank to return back. Until next time, tank on. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and share this episode. Also, if you want me to make more episodes, head over to my Patreon account and send a donation to help me make more episodes. For any suggestions for future episodes, leave a comment in the comments section down below. Also subscribe to my channel and join my toxic army, and we'll take over the world together.